Right, all right, here's the obvious one to pivot to now. Let's just do the topic on this, right? Because if you notice, Monty, that whole concept of the fearless draft, maybe I'm just living in a bubble. I feel like, even though I'm actually quite skeptical of it, every person in my circle on Twitter in the industry loves it, mate. They're all just... By the way, I'm amazed how many coaches want this shit. Like, the amount of people I've seen just given all these... None of them give any of the negatives. They just only give positives and all these extra... Like, the first immediate thing I have a concern about, because I imagine you're a bit skeptical, is, to me, Monty, this... Like, I'll give you an example. This would be like if in Counter-Strike there was some way to make it so that you always had to keep playing different maps. I can tell you right now, Monty, that wouldn't make teams better on all the maps. It would make you better in the sense you played the maps you're bad on, but it would make you worse at your best maps. So the first thing I think of when I think of this, Monty, is when we all complain, think about classic ones that we all complain, for example, that like NA top laners can't play Fiora or Jace. You're going to just force them to play it now. They're not going to suddenly be good. They're not going to suddenly turn into Prime Nagori or the Shy. They're just going to be forced to play something they're bad at. Meanwhile, at the same time, let's say you had I'll pick someone current. So how about Licorice, who's coming back now, right? Licorice is famous for his Poppy. You remember that one? What if he could only ever play that every now and then because it's immediately then banned out for the rest of the series? So now you don't even get him on his best champions. Think of always bet. So you pick. So to me, there are, even though I acknowledge there are interesting aspects, I think there are so many fundamental negatives to this, mate. Like, I'm not a fan of this concept, I have to say.
So I think the main problem with it is that I don't think it changes that much in a best of 3, and it might in a best of 5. But the problem with doing it at a best of 5 is the problem that Riot themselves addressed when they said that they would be doing it in NACL in best of 5s, which is that, you know, basically, if you want to run it in a best of 5 and have it be reasonable, essentially what they do is in game 4 of the best of 5, you only get 3 bans instead of 5, and in game 5 you get no bans, right? Because there are already 40 champions that are banned if you're running like the true fearless mode where each team can only play one champion one time, win or lose. So you've played the other, you know, your team has been...
By the way, for people who don't get it, what he's saying there is you can't let people on game 5. You've already played 4 different champions you can't play. You can't then have someone do 5 bans against one person. I have to play my 10th best champion. Like, that would almost destroy the whole concept of League of Legends at that point.
Yes.
It would just wreck it completely, wouldn't it? Imagine being the jungler like that, my boy. I have to pick my 10th best jungler. Like, what would that even be at this point?
My point is, like, in a best of 3, where... You know, it's, you know,
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not as bad in that.
So in a best of 3, you get basically 10 champions that are banned out, right? The ones that you've played previously. And then you get, there's still the bans that are coming in within the game. But I just don't think that, given that most pro players' champion pools are deep enough to survive that assault, like best of 3s, I don't know how much of a difference it make. If you go with the system that NACL, I am intrigued to see it with the system that NACL is using and see a game 5, because I'm curious what happens if 40 champions are banned out of the game. And you don't have any, and if, what I like about it is if there is like a permaban champion that's been happening that entire time, all of a sudden you can get it and actually play it, right? So if there's a signature champion for a player, I do agree that in theory it's hype in a game 5 to have that player on their best champion that was banned out for the rest of the series, right? That's like actually a hype moment. My problem is fundamentally, though, is like, why do we not need this in other MOBAs? Why don't we need this in Dota, right? And the answer is because Dota has significantly better champion diversity at the professional level, because Dota is a game that is balanced primarily around professional play, as far as I can tell. And League of Legends is not. It's why they buffed Cassante again recently. Like, why did we do that? He was already mega broken at the professional level. Watch Keen play him. That champion looked not broken. I mean, Keen's very good at it. I like watching Keen play Cassante, but it's like, it's clearly like too good at everything, right? And so with these issues, sometimes Riot will entirely gut a champion like Ryze, where if Ryze had a 50% win rate in solo queue, he would be perma-picked at the professional level because of what he does. So sometimes there are these problems, and yeah, they've just admitted basically that their shit-ass design of Ryze and their a million week reworks of Ryze has never actually solved the problem, and he's too good at pro, so he has to be at like a 45% win rate in solo queue in order to accommodate for the professional scene. And even then, he still shows up. Keen played him, right? Keen played him at MSI. He's a good into Rumble in the top lane, turns out. But it is a game that is much more designed around the philosophy of balancing for the average player. And Can you argue about that? League has a much bigger player base than Dota, right? That's just true. League's the biggest PC game in the world, probably. It used to be. I don't know if it is right now. But so it has been successful at that. However, me, the person who does not care about the pleb experience on the ladder, me who cares about the professional experience, this is a band-aid to fix the professional scene fundamentally. And I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if I like it. I think that there are different applications for this. I will say I do like it at the amateur level because I think it's good for player development. At the professional level, I think it robs us of seeing a lot of players on their best champions. And people will say, oh, there are lots of champions that players don't play because they're not used to it. And that's true. Look at Aurelion Sol. He was mega broken, and it was only after nerfs this year that players started picking him up. And he was still mega broken even after those nerfs. So there's a lot of truth to the fact that players do what the comfort picks are, but there's also truth to the fact that it's balanced badly at the professional level. And that is the reason behind a lot of these picks. Like Cassante's kit is overloaded for professional players who could be really good at Cassante. And that's just true. The more mobility you add into the game, the more movement speed you add into the game, these are the most broken attributes you can put in the hands of professional players. Because when you're coordinated, that speed is incredibly useful. And being there half a second sooner can be the difference between winning a team fight and losing one. So it does matter. And when you give players the ability to reposition and play with their teammates well, it's just very powerful. So I don't know. Like I will say in terms of the LPL, I don't mind what they're doing with Fearless Draft Thorin because it's just for the first round where we have a bunch of good teams beating on shitters. And like, honestly, I think the new LPL format, while it's incredibly complicated, is actually quite good. Because the thing about it is that this phase of the LPL sucks, but they kind of made it interesting with Fearless Draft. So you have a reason to watch this stage, even though it's a bunch of like good teams beating on shitter teams for the most part. But the next stage, they remove Fearless Draft, but they pool all of the good teams together into one group. So we're going to get a bunch of really good LPL games, because the problem with LPL is all of the teams, because they did one round robin, the good matches, like we would see one good match, like, whatever, BLG versus Top Esports at the very start of the split, and then just not see it again until the playoffs. And like, that was a long time to wait for a good fucking game of League of Legends. So they've kind of solved this problem in an ingenious fashion, which is that, okay, we're gonna dump all of the bad teams into their own group to monkey knife fight, but the way we're gonna sort the teams is by using Fearless Draft, which is interesting. So I don't hate it in that capacity, in the fact that it's a limited part of the tournament.
I'll give you an example. I've realized, Monty, I was making the mistake again of arguing in like an enlightened, sort of sophisticated manner, using abstract ideas. I'll give a very specific example that's incredibly cynical. Here's why you, the fan watching, don't want the Fearless Draft, even though you think you do. Because I'm talking about the idea it's going to be in all of League of Legends. It'll just be the new format, and we'll have it in best of fives. It'll be at Worlds. Here's why you wouldn't want it. Imagine if in the first split, APA had joined the LCS, we had the Fearless Draft in every single game. How would his champion pool have worked out in game 5? It would be terrible. Him and Young would never even be at MSI, mate. It wouldn't even be possible. They would be fucked. They could last like 2 games in a series. And I'm talking about when they're rookies, when they first joined and they had limited champion. It'd be a nightmare.
It might be a nightmare now.
Could be. Who knows?
So I don't know. Like it feels bad to artificially limit players at the professional level. And here's the thing, Thorin, I didn't have any problem finding MSI really entertaining without Fearless Draft. The problem is, guys, you are bored because Riot has created a circuit where we don't get good games frequently, or we don't get hype matches.
That's even a better point than you realize, Monty. Isn't one of the points we have made after like the last 3 or 4 international tournaments, like we like the Worlds meta, this MSI meta was good. I think I'd actually say for real, the last sort of year and a half or 2 years of League have had pretty good metas, Monty. Yeah. Like
2022 Worlds is very good.
Maybe you get like one role like mids Oriana fucking Azir or whatever, like, which is classic. But you maybe get that. But aside from that, I actually think the diversity is very good in the champion pool. Like, I agree with you. I've never been watching Worlds like there's not enough champions picked. Like that's an old school. That's like a take that's like 4 years out of date at this point in time.
Well, and also like just ask yourself, were there weird picks in the finals? There was a fucking Carry Blitzcrank game at MSI finals. Yep. It was great. Who was complaining about that?
Think about that, like in the upper bracket final or whatever it was, like they had that, I can't remember which one it was. Like fucking Knight picked Vex. That's not even played now.
Karthus came out in the jungle when it hadn't been played the entire tournament. Like, good teams have deep champion pools, and they will try and get advantages by surprising you. Like, it's not necessary. You guys think you want Fearless Draft because you want ways to make Riot's shitty circuit more exciting. It's not.
By the way, the key word there, you notice, is exciting. All they want, this is one of the worst things about esports, is a bunch of people who will burn everything down to have a tiny, essentially, here's the analogy. They will burn everything we built down just to get 1 second of the heat from the flame. That's just a novelty. Fans just do it. It's why they always tell you that thing that infuriates me, that they want upsets. You motherfuckers hate upsets, because once the upset happens, you don't watch the next match. You argue against your own fucking interests, you idiots. Because here's what I don't get, Monty. I get why LS wants this. Like you just said before, this is everything LS dreamed of, because now if there's like some secret iPhone that's broken, then if you listen to him, you get like an extra pick in game 4 and you win the series, don't you? The problem I don't get is, why does average Joe, who already doesn't want to watch League of Legends, pretend that he wants to watch a game 4 where all the best champions are banned out and someone even fucked up their like draft in game 3, so now they don't even get to redo the draft. Like, you just can't do anything. Like, you think you want that, but you don't. Like, that is, you will tune out of these matches, I'm telling you. Like, they also haven't thought that. I agree with you on the ban thing, though. The ban thing to make game 5 almost like a blind pick component, where if nothing was picked, you can now pick anything. That's not bad. That's not a bad compromise. I'll give you that.
Well, the thing is, too, is that now we have to use, nobody even knows what Fearless Draft is, by the way, because there's multiple definitions of it. So in the LPL, that's
true as well.
What they're doing, what they call Fearless Draft, is that you can't pick champions you have picked previously. In LCS, or NALCL, the Amateur League to LCS, they are doing it so you can't pick what they call true Fearless, which I like, come on, guys, we have to come up with some different like, what the fuck is Fearless Draft, okay? You can't just call one Fearless and one true Fearless. You can't pick a champion. What they're saying is that you can't pick a champion that either team has played. So which is it, guys? What is the format? And you can experiment with this.
But I haven't thought of them, Monty. Here's what I would immediately do, and you would do this as well if you were a coach. My entire strategy, my entire metagame for draft, Monty, if you use the true Fearless Draft, is no longer even about my champions. I'm going to make my first 2 drafts in the draft. I'm going to make my first 2 game drafts, Monty, in our best of 5, just so you can never get your comp. I'm going to pick champions I don't even really like, just so now you can never play it for the rest of the series. Enjoy. By the way, I'm putting APA on fucking, like, you know, he could be on like some shit he never played, because after that we burned it for you. Now you can't beat us with it. That actually is a weird angle too, isn't it? What a strange angle that is.
It's basically just encouraging sabotage.
Which is, because I'm with you. I don't mind. It's not as bad if it's the one that you picked and you have to change your pick. That's different. I'm with you.
You may hate Cassante, but at the end of the day, like, Keen deserves to be really good at Cassante. And like taking, or for example, taking Aurelion Sol away from APA means that you get somebody worse on Aurelion Sol that you have to watch, and you don't get to watch APA, who is good at Aurelion Sol, play it. Like, who wants that experience? Who wants to be like...
That's what I don't get, Monty. I feel like, for real, I get something different out of sports than other people. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the players I actually do enjoy watching, even though he wasn't the best quarterback, was Matthew Stafford, mate. And one of the reasons why is... because he just fucking runs the plays. Like, if he has Megatron, spoil it, he's passing it to Megatron. Same way as, Aaron Rodgers, when he had Devontae Adams, 90% of the balls go to them. That doesn't get boring because they're really good at it. Like, who, by the way, if you didn't enjoy watching Aaron Rodgers pass the ball to Devontae Adams, you don't like American football. That's it. It would be like saying in basketball, you don't like Karl Malone and John Stockton doing a pick and roll. Yeah. You don't want to go, we can only do pick and roll in game 1, John. Like, you want to see it all the time. It's the hardest strategy to stop. Because I'm with you, Monty. If Keen is unstoppable on Cassante, I want him to see him play every game. I want to see every top laner have to battle that and see if they can clear that bar. And if they can't, tough shit.
Let me pick a less controversial champion. So let's say we want to watch Bin play Jax. All right?
Okay.
If Bin wins a game on Jax and hard carries, are you sitting there being like, I sure wish Bin couldn't play Jax again in this series? Like, no, of course you're not. You want to watch more Bin Jax. Like, it's just stupid. Like, you are literally you are making game quality worse for novelty's sake. And if a player is really good at a champion, then that should just become a part of the pick and ban and draft, which it does already, and it is fine at doing. So I don't get it, guys. Like, I think it also, by the way, Thorin, I think it also just changes how pro players have been playing the game. Like, nobody's asking this question, which is like, you have literally designed a system for 15 years that is about pro players developing a specific style of play in champion pool. And now you're saying that these players who have worked their asses off to become pro have to play just broader champions. Like, you're saying, well, before it was really great that you could play 10 champions really well, but now you might have to play 20 champions kind of well. Can you do that? Like, you're changing the skill set required for professional players, and that's fucking dumb. Like, these players became pro because you told them this is the skill set that they needed. And now you're just going to completely change things.
This out there. This is just to be a little shit. It's not even a real point, Monty. But it doesn't even work for Riot, because now in the future, how are you ever going to sell any more Faker skins? Like, oh, that's not what he played in like game 1 of that one series. Exactly. He doesn't even, you're not even playing the champion anymore. What's happening with that?
So I don't know. Like I said, I'm okay with it at the amateur level because I do think it's interesting at the amateur level. And I do think that the best way to do this is obviously not to hard force a solution. If you think that fearless mode will increase pro player champion pools, then do it at the amateur level. So by the time those players become professional players, they have bigger champion pools, right? It just takes time. It just takes time.
I'm just looking forward to Froggen coming back to LEC, because logically he'd be the god of this, because in game 3 he's picking Vel'Koz, game 4 he's on the Anivia, game 5 probably Lee Sin. You know what I mean? More. He can do it all. The joke is he already had the meta pool, didn't he? He had his own bullshit meta pool, so it's already over.
And if you're a Faker fan, you better fucking hope this fearless mode doesn't come for T1, by the way.
Oh, he's done. He's done if that happens.
He would be toasted right now.
Because here's the thing as well. He actually would be the most obvious player. You would just put all the 5 bans on in game 4 or whatever, on game 3. Like, why wouldn't you make him play like his 9th best champion? Go for it, man. You go for it. You're 8th or 9th best champion, Faker. Bring it out.
We all saw his Akali with our eyes at MSI. It wasn't great. And you know, what do you think is a bigger fan draw, like a bigger viewership draw? Faker continuing to play this game or fearless mode?
By the way, I actually want to bring that aspect up, because I'll give you an example. Here's the analogy for you. One thing I'll give a rare olive branch to the LeBron stans, the LeBron sexuals as they're called, Monty. Which is the one thing I agree with them is impressive about LeBron, is that it's not just that he played like 21 years, because by the way, he also like took loads of games off, so he didn't really play the same amount as like someone playing 20 years in the past. But he did play like the actual games he did play. He played at an extremely high level. He's still really good. He's still probably, if people don't know, the 10th best or 15th best player in the NBA. He's still pretty good. He's not the best, but he's still pretty good, right? That's very impressive. But one thing I don't get is this. So every other player who had that longevity in general, Monty, by the time they're in year 20, they're going to be degraded and they're going to be half as good a player. That's my point I'm making, right? What I don't get is this. Why is that never used against Faker, by the way? Right? I always say this about Deft. The thing about Deft and Rookie that's impressive is, bro, if I just took the nameplates off and showed you these players today, you'd say they're one of the best in the world. You'd be like, holy shit, this Deft guy, is that like some up-and-coming ADC? It looks fucking cracked. If I showed you Rookie on his picks, like, you'd think this guy's a monster. Like, is that like the next up and coming like LPL mid? If you watch Faker, since we've all made this argument that like, in theory, the idea your mechanics degraded, like his mechanics have degraded, bro. The number one thing he lost is his hands. Like the rest of it, if anything, scaled up. He's probably smarter now. He's probably better at understanding the game. He's probably a better shot call. He's probably a better captain. But actually, his hands is the number one thing that did drop off, isn't it? Like even when he has those like brilliant Ari games, it usually is more like his decision making that's brilliant. It's not really that he's doing like a Chovy-esque, like impossible riding the edge of mechanics. Like how did he do that? Like that's actually probably the most underwhelming thing about Faker. When people tried to tell me like he's still the GOAT now, it's like he was the GOAT for what he did in the past, you idiots. Like his actual game now is half as good. And he used to have a champion ocean. He used to, by the way, Faker once upon a time probably had the biggest champion of anyone ever. It was crazy.
Yeah, and also we know he's injured, right? And his injury,
has he still got that problem? Is it implied that's just permanent and chronic or something?
Look, Thorin, I don't know another way to interpret his performance at MSI falling off a cliff from his performance in the spring split. Why was he so much worse at MSI mechanically than he was in the spring split? It's just weird. It's weird. Like they're not going to say anything about that, but I mean, it makes sense that after playing the entire spring split, maybe his injury is flaring up again. They haven't said anything, but it is suspicious.
Right, get Porby in. Sub Porby in. You know what's sad as well? That would work every year. You know, Monty, unironically, if T1 like loses a couple of games early to Hanwha Life and JT, they should actually just sub Faker out for 3 weeks in the middle of the split and go, he's injured. Make Porby play, but give Porby no resources, not to, he's just trash. Then do the same thing. Just bring Faker back in, start winning games. Just do the same script over again. It would work. The sad thing is it would actually emotionally work on the fans, I guarantee. I love it. It's so stupid.
Well, anyway, so yeah, I think that, look, I think when we look at
imagine the rage of T1 fans when their team loses like world semi in a fearless draft.
Yeah, I don't think you guys want fearless draft for like the entirety of, like, I understand why it's an LPL, and if you guys don't know, basically the new LPL format is they play fearless draft for the first stage. I actually like the new LPL format. I'd be interested to hear what you think about it, Thorin. But they divided the teams into 4 different groups, which is awkward because there's 17 instead of 16 teams. So one group has 5 teams in it, and they play fearless mode in best of 3s. And they play double round robin in these groups. And by the way, if you're not a super big LPL fan, you can actually just ignore this entire part of LPL because nothing interesting is probably going to happen for the first few weeks of competition, which honestly, Thorin, makes it better because there's too much fucking League of Legends in the world anyway right now. And what happens?
It's like you say, Monty, they've actually done a very good job. This is also, I will just say, where the league is bullshit, by the way. I noticed that I've been told seeding can never be done, Monty. It's actually wrong. It's morally wrong to seed. But magically, they've seeded these LPL groups amazingly. So as you say, it's like a couple of good teams and then bad teams. There's never one group of 4 really good teams, you notice, Monty. They're all like a world's group, like 2 good teams, 2 bad. This is so cynically, but I'm with you. Like, it means no good team will be eliminated. You know, yeah. It's actually been seeded quite well.
I mean, nobody's getting eliminated, right? That's the thing, is that basically they're just containing the toxic waste for the next stage. Yep. They're sorting the toxic waste right now, and then they're going to put all the bad teams in their own shitty group. I mean, I love this because what happens is, so the bottom 2 teams, so from every group, so the bottom 8 teams in total, then get shuffled off into their own toxic waste, their toxic waste containment zone for the second part of LPL, and then the top 2 teams and top 3 teams of the group with 5 teams in it all get put in their own group, which should be an actual banger.
It is. Who the fuck is going to watch the lower team group? Like, nobody. No one's going to. That's going to be the NACL of LPL. Like, no one's watching
It's
that
great.
group.
They have too many teams. They have too many games. I fucking love it. So basically, in the 2 groups, once they've sorted out the sludge into the containment pool, they're going to get a single round robin of all Group A teams, which, by the way, the top 9 teams in the LPL, all going head to head, all those games are going to be good, guys. All of them are going to be great. So we're going to get a bunch of good games.
And in this scenario, like you say, you avoid the problem before of like a true marquee matchup being on week 2, because at the beginning you start with these other matches. You get the other ones out the way, and then we get, like, once everyone's warmed up on the patch, then we get the real fucking matches. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's great.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.